وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين سيما بقية الله في السماوات والأرضين. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم قل كل يعمل على شاكلته. Honestly, I was asking Brother Ali Abbas for and also Brother Murtaza, but what is a good topic to talk about, because I did not know the audience, so they knew. So alhamdulillah, there were some good suggestions. So based on those suggestions, I had some content. So basically the topic that I came up with is starting with a verse of Quran and hopefully elaborating on that we can learn an important principle in our religion, which is the significance of making change in our lives. One thing that we always hear is that is it possible for people to change, right? You hear always these statements that once this, always this, right? That people are usually, they tend to stay who they are. They hardly change. And there's truth to that for sure. And Quran also kind of support that concept. Allah, in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قُلْ كُلٌّ يَعْمَلُ عَلَى شَاكِلَتِهِ. O Prophet, say it, that every person, every human being acts according to their shakila. Shakila means the character. It means that in Arabic language, the word shakila, it refers to a halter, the way you control an animal, the way you direct an animal. So shakila referring to something that is not letting you change direction. So usually you go in one way because of the halter. And the character of every person is the one that is a guiding force of their actions, their decisions, why we do what we do, why we like what we like. And for that matter is a very important part of our lives is how to develop that character. So that's why we hear this so many times, that as we get older, especially age 40 is a cap. That to say if you want to make any change in your life, 40 usually is the best chance we have. After 40, the chances of somebody being able to change themselves is very slim, almost to none. So for that reason, your age, alhamdulillah, is the ideal age to talk about this subject. The subject of character building and change. Because to make change is not easy, but is there any way that we can make it possible, or at least expedite the process of change according to the teachings of Quran, teachings of Ahlul Bayt, as well as, of course, there's so many self-help books out there. There's so many, different form of positive psychology and all these out there. But for me, it's important that looking at all these other references as an additional material rather than the core material. The core material for us is, we believe, a spiritual content. Because one is the physical existence, and I always say that Islam never claimed to be the religion who's supposed to dictate physical laws. So when you look at the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran doesn't say what to eat and what not to eat. It said just eat what is tayyib, right? What is pure, what is good. But how much to eat? Is it carbs? Is it protein? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't go there. Even when you look at some tradition, they advise some fruits or honey or something. Is very, very small amount of advice on physical development. And there is a reason for it, because Allah provided the means of understanding of the body, which is our intelligence, our aql, our intellect is capable of finding it ourselves. That's why the golden age of Islam, we had many people who study anatomy, right? We have people who study mathematics. We have those who study specifically astronomy, because it was encouraged in a religion, go out there and study the physical world. You have the means to do it. Allah didn't say don't go it. Contrary to what we see right now in some areas, like Taliban say, don't seek knowledge, the school of God. The golden age of Islam was exactly opposite of that. How this groups come to understanding, it should be, inshallah, encourage you to read more about the history and the roots of them. When you have colonization history for mankind, the colonizer used to have one approach, and that was you take your army and you go and you invade. That was the approach of the past. But after all these different movement, revolution, if it's in India and independence, or if it's in, Arab world and people resistance against the colonizer, they changed their approach. So the approach is that, okay, we cannot clash with these civilization anymore. It's cost us a lot. It means we have to take manpower and you have to invest a lot. So they changed that direct confrontation to a very indirect confrontation. So what is that? We're familiar with the term coup, right? Everybody know coup d'etat and all that. It's an indirect form of doing what you want in order to subjugate the resources of where you want in your benefit. So if they're trying to find independence or they're to be self-reliant, you destroy them. You go, you get rid of the people that they're good, you put the corrupt leaders in charge, and you go with them. And one of those methodology that was very common was among the Muslim Ummah, because we have a lot of resources, right? If you look at few Muslim countries, we're literally sitting on the oil reserve of the world. We have it, we're talking about billions on daily basis, is being harvested from few Muslim countries. So what are we gonna push? The push is that, okay, we're not gonna invade you, it's a trouble for us, and you're stubborn, you don't want to be, colonized. You have the Omar Mukhtar in Libya and Africa, and you had, as I said, other revolutionary leaders. What we're gonna do is let's go and indirectly from grassroots, let's condemn education. Let's call anything that is about education as opposition to religion. Oh, universities are bad. Let's go and destroy them because they destroy youth is religion, right? Let's not educate them. Women, they should not be educated because if they get educated, they stop practicing their faith. This ideology was implemented when in reality, that was never the tradition in the history of Islam. When again, early universities was established by Muslims. And one of these universities was established in North Africa by women. There's so much that unfortunately there's not a really cohesive history that we can read. You have to pick up, pieces from every history. All right, let me go study Al Abuya and what they've done. Let me go study Fatimiyun and what they've done in Africa. And then you start putting those pieces together. So I said all this to come to this point, that physical world, Allah said, go study it yourself. Siru fil ard fanzuru. Afala yanzuruna ila al-ibli kayfa khuliqat. Look at the camel. Look at the way we created it, right? وَإِلَى السَّمَاءِ كَيْفَ رُفِعَتْ وَإِلَى الْجِبَالِ. Look at the mountains, look at the sky, look at the earth. So if you go geography, astronomy, everything, Allah said, I encourage you, go do it. Examine and study it, do as much as you can. But one thing that Allah said, I'm here to tell you, is something you don't have access to, and that is divine. That's غَيْبَ الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. The knowledge toward the unseen. No matter how much you study, you're not going to learn about the soul, about the spirit, about the ruh. And that's where Quran comes. That's where the Prophet Ahlul Bayt comes, to make sure we have guidance on that path. None of the Imams said, okay, let's kick out the doctors and the tabib. Let's not use medicine. The tabib were present. And I always say, this is something to reflect on. If you see people right now push a different narrative, is not the narratives of Ahlul Bayt. Imam alayhi salam, when he was struck, it's part of the history. They brought a tabib, a doctor, to him. He examined, Imam Ali's head. He was the one who said, okay, let's test something, and then he advised to bring some milk. It's not that Imam Hassan said, no, we don't need a doctor, we don't need a tabib, don't check on him. Same as when we see about the Imam Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his son gets sick and they bring the tabib. It's not that they don't have that access, they do, but there is the world we live in, we call it Alam al-Asbab. It's the world of faculties and means. In order to get to a certain result, you need the means to get there. And Ahlul Bayt did that. That's why one day Imam Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was looking for someone and he was calling his name. And somebody, of course, claimed to be the Shia of Imam al-Sadiq, but of course it shows his understanding of being the follower of the Imam wasn't strong enough. He said, oh, I thought you have ilm al-ghayb. I thought the Imam have the knowledge of the unseen. Why you don't use the knowledge of the unseen to find him? Why you look for him? And Imam ﷺ said the knowledge of the unseen is not something that we utilize personally. It's not something like a personal checking that I do it from home. I use it when Allah wants me to use it. The ilm al-ghayb of the Imam is that the Imam does what Allah wants him to do. That's what makes him an Imam. Otherwise, if Imam wants to use whatever he wants to do, Bani Umayyah did that. They did whatever they wanted with the religion of God. So there is a different narrative we should be aware. Religion's main purpose is, according to the teachings of the Quran, is to help us, as said, وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. He's here, number one, to help us purify ourselves. Of course, not physically. It's about the spiritual purification. What are the spiritual purification? What are we purifying ourselves from? And one of the greatest issues we have, people say, religion is outdated. Why we have to talk about something that was 1400 years ago? We live right now. And when you say outdated, I always ask people, what is different? So look, they used to be on camels, now we have airplanes, and now we have this, and we have this invention, and that technology. And I say, I get that, but as I said, religion of Islam was not there to say, okay, I'm going to replace invention, I'm going to replace your dunya. It wasn't. We're supposed to advance, we're supposed to learn. Even at the time of the prophets of God, not every prophet had the same access to dunya. So from Musa to Isa to our prophet, every prophet had different access to the blessing of dunya. Not every one of them had the same thing. But one thing that is not changing is the soul. So when Allah said Islam is about purification, and that never goes, obsolete, is because what are the diseases of the soul? What is the disease of the character? Greed. Can somebody say because 1400 years later after Islam, greed is not here? Still there. Islam was here to purify us from what? What else beside greed? Jealousy. What else? Selfishness.
Ego.
What else? Ego. There's so much that is happening, and it's still happening, and it will happen, because soul is constant. Dunya is not constant. Dunya is, as I say, is evolving. But the soul usually stays. We're very primitive. Our desires are very primitive. The way people used to mate, right, or find a partner was different now. We just have a bit of fancy thing that we click on stuff, and that's how we communicate. In the old time, probably you have to go, kind of lurk in a corner, find somebody passing by. But the idea is lust, shahwa. Shahwa is there. In the old time, somebody was looking from a corner. Now people are looking from a different way. So Islam has the relevance because what is the solution that is offering is about the purification of the soul. Those diseases are still on, they exist. Anger issues are there. Anxiety, depression. These are things that our soul suffers. And then body, of course, is entangled with it. So the question is, Islam is about the soul, is here to purify us, and purification is about change. I have certain bad habits, I have some bad, let's say, behaviors. What can I do to make it better, to make it go away if it's necessary to get rid of? And that's the entire science of ethics, akhlaq, in religion of Islam. We have details how to get rid of every, we call it the diseases of the soul. Each of them have their own solution. But again, my time is limited, so I'm going to generalize some general rules that we can do in order to make purification and the change of the character possible. Then again, if you change the character, then our actions will follow. If my character is corrupt, my actions will be corrupted as well. Simple. If I have greed, my decision will be based on greed. I'll sacrifice anything. I sacrifice my family, I sacrifice my friends, I sacrifice my marriage because I'm greedy. That's what I want. So that's the issue, that all the actions follow it. Same as with jealousy, right? If I have jealousy, I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm going to stress all the time. I'm competitive. I call it competitiveness. But really, it just bothers me at people's success. That's a jealousy. It's something I have within. So my actions, I start doing gossip about people because I'm jealous of them. The ghaiba comes, right? I start going and try to stab them in the back because I'm jealous. So the actions follows that character. So what are the solution according to Islam? First and most important one, to make make that change possible, is a concept that Quran says is interesting. If you go to Greeks, there are thinkers that we see. It's such an ancient wisdom that Quran says that it wasn't even in the past. Quran says, "Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut." Every soul has to taste death, has to experience death. No one can escape it. When you look at there are certain Greek thinkers that there are in philosophy, there's a famous motto that they have, or slogan, which is translate that everything dies, that life is short. There's a Latin term for it, or there's a Greek term for it, whatever it is. But the point is, they get the same concept. The concept is that life is short. So if you want to, sometimes we don't change because we think we have time. A lot of people, when you ask them, stop doing this, I'll do it later. Because we think we have infinite amount of time, or at least we don't want to think about that life is going on, right? A lot of young people, they don't change because of that. Said, okay, inshallah, once I'm married, I'll take care of it. Once I buy a house, then I take care of it. Once I do this, there's always this condition and contingency that we do change. But the reality is, most cases, there are exceptions of course, but most cases people don't. Because the longer we are acquainted with a habit, is going to stay there. So the first thing, in order to make the change possible, to remember this, kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut, death is coming. Every day and night that goes on, I'm one step, one day closer to death. It's not to be depressed about it, it's not to sad, it's the truth. It's truth. Let's say if you go somewhere and you know that you buy a ticket, and I don't know, there's an amusement park, whatever it is, and you have 6 hours. You're not going to chill somewhere and say, okay, I'm going to just wait for 2 hours. You try to use every ride, make sure that the money I paid is going to be halal, right? I'm not going to let any ride go. Make sure that, if it's a buffet, right? Oh, okay. There's some people that when they go out, they pay for a buffet. I know that they paid for it, but they forget about the poor stomach that, okay, I paid for this, but I have to spend money to get rid of that stomachache after it. So the point is that when we know time is short, it encourages us to do something about it. And when we remember life is short, kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut, it teaches us that, okay, I have to do something about it right now, no tomorrow. And that's why going to cemetery is highly recommended in our faith. Dhikrul mawti ibadah, remembrance of death, is worship in our religion. One is to go to funerals, another is just go to cemetery. Just go, reflect, sit there, maybe once a week. If you have a grandfather, somebody who's buried somewhere, go check. Do some du'as, and just being there helps. So that's one solution, which again, it's kind of the groundwork of pushing ourselves to motivate ourselves that I need to make the change. When it also is about me dying, and also is about other people dying as well. Let's say I don't change because I think, okay, I'm here, I'm gonna make my parents happy, I'm gonna make my spouse happy, I'm gonna fix it. But there is no guarantee that there is a tomorrow for them either. It's a sad truth of it that how many cases we have that somebody regrets that they did not forgive someone, or they didn't talk to someone before it gets too late. So to change, an immediate change, not rush, but immediate means not procrastination, is the first step to take. The second one is a hadith of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Imam alayhi salam said, "Ahabbul a'mal 'inda Allah adwamuha wa in qalla." The second step when you want to make change, Imam said, the most beloved action before God, the one that Allah loves the most, are actions that they are consistent and small, even if they're small. So if you want to make change, follow this. Do what Allah loves the most. Rather than very chaotic behavior of doing something too much and then not doing it, and then do it too much and then abandoning it, small steps. Always change comes from small things. If anyone suddenly, what's the term again? I don't know what's the lingo right now. People who suddenly, there is in the middle of the group, and they say something and this guy loses money. Oh, I'm gonna do it, right? They're being pumped, they're being kind of hyped up. That doesn't have long-lasting effect. It usually dies down. If you look at usually, fireworks, right? Fireworks, what's the issue with fireworks? It's loud, It's very bright, but it's so, in an amount of time, it's so short. Some changes are like that. People, oh, I'm gonna do it. From now, I'm gonna go and run 5 miles a day, and I'm gonna eat healthy, and the next day, it dies down. So small changes. Spiritually is the same thing. Spiritually, let's say if somebody said, oh, I should do more, study more about my religion, but I never read a book in my life, and suddenly I want to finish Allama Tabatabai Tafsir al-Mizan. That's not gonna work. Start from small things. 1 page. Know yourself better than anyone. So small changes is the way to make it possible. And that's, again, I always encourage people in mustahabbat. Let's say you want to have some more time in connection with Allah. Start with Tasbih al-Zahra. It takes 3 minutes. Start with that one. Once you had it down, then okay, you add something else and something else. But if you're in one sitting, you open Mafatih al-Janan and you read this dua, or on your app you read one dua after another, it is going to, again, not be very consistent. So consistency, a small step matters and change. That's the second one. The third one, again, inshallah, I'll wrap up with that because I promise I'll keep it short. It's very critical to know that when we make the change, who are we changing for? Are we changing it for ourselves, for our family? What's the purpose of that change? We need to ask the question, why? One thing you should not be scared of is, even including religion, is to ask questions. I never encourage people to say, okay, you do it just blindly. But to ask a question, Imam Hassan said, Husnul Su'al Nisful Jawab. Half of the answer is a good question. So sometimes people said, oh, why gold is haram for men? I said, okay, let's take a step back. Forget about why gold is forbidden and haram for men. Why even Allah made certain thing haram? Where'd that come from? What's the source? What's the reference? Because if you skip all that, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense. But somebody would get the right question. The right question is, okay, is only halal and haram in Quran, or is more than in Quran? Because one thing I hear all the time, well, it's not in Quran, so it's not haram. So okay, if you know about religion, no Muslim, including even Sunni Muslim, will tell you that halal and haram is not only in Quran. We have Quran, and then we have hadith, tradition, and then we have sunnah, the way of the life of the Prophet. He is the teacher, and we have all this as a package, and how you drive rules, laws from Islam. If you get that, then again, you don't create your own version of Islam. We're Qurani people. If it's in the Quran, it's halal. If it's not, and because our nafs, our ego, our desires wants to get what they want, right? Oh, I'm a good person. I know it's haram, but the reason I don't follow it is not because I really care about this or I got used to it. I'm not going to accept the flaw. Rather, what I say is, oh, it's not credible. It's not reliable. So I find excuse for it. So to ask why it's important, but not every why. Because, as kids, I don't know if you spend time with kids. Inshallah, you do. Whenever is the right time with your own kid. But before that, hopefully with your siblings, cousins. It's good to sometimes observe children. One thing that they do is they ask why, right? So for example, they ask, I remember my wife has a niece, this is my brother-in-law's daughter, so she always asks, okay, why we do matam? I said, okay, why the lights are off, then I explain. But then she asked whatever is the answer, I said, okay, we correct for a moment, say, why? So because the mom was saying, was oppressed, and we remember that, but why? And then you say, oh, it was Yazid, so why? And again, it comes to a point, that's a child. Again, they don't know better. But as a grown-up, we cannot just say why to everything. It should be a why that is achieving an objective. Yes, I believe in Islam, but this part of Islam I don't get. Is it cultural? Is it part of a culture? Is it part of a religion? That's a fair question to ask. That's a good question to ask. But to just say why, and again, when answer is provided, they said, I know that, but why? I said, okay, there is a limited amount of explanation for everything. I don't have all the answers. And sometimes you ask somebody a question, maybe they don't know the answer. There's someone else who knows. And that's fine. So that's the third thing about the change, to know why. Don't say, oh, because everybody should. Let's say I'm talking about you want to change, you want to eat healthy, you want to go to gym. Ask yourself why you want to go to gym. Is it because that everybody else go and they want to look good and there's intention behind it? Or no, you don't feel good, you think you're tired all the time, you're exhausted, you want to make a change. What is the reason? And once that's clear, it gives you enough reason to stay with it, to take the small steps. And one good way that helps you with good questions, and it helps you with, at the same time, asking the proper why, is to write. Writing is important. We have that, when you wake up in the morning is a good practice, whatever is in your mind. They call it the spiritual wipers, right? When you write down, your mind, your soul is clouded. And the best thing to do is just to write stuff. What is on your mind? Just write it. They call it, I think, somebody is not very delicate way of putting it. So it's a thought vomit. Just, whatever it is, just let it be on the paper. And we have Allama Tabatabai, he used to do muhasaba, self-accountability. He would write about his action in the morning and in the night. We do muhasaba. So if you don't do the accountability, at least, okay, what's on my mind? Because sometimes I don't know why, what's going on, what am I even asking? What's my issue, what's my concern? Because there's so much on our mind, and thanks to social media, we start having whys that is not even our whys, right? You just suddenly see a short coming on YouTube, or there is a TikTok, and somebody's throwing something, and you suddenly say, yeah. And then now it becomes your concern as well. You have your own concern, you have your own issues, now somebody else's concern is yours. So that's fine, we cannot avoid it, we cannot say, okay, shut the real world, and don't see it. But I'm saying don't do it in the morning. You enough have on your mind. Don't start your day with watching things and absorbing information. Let the morning be the time that you are the one projecting your thoughts. And that helps you to get to the good questions. You know what you really want to change. You get to know, okay, these are because when we sleep, we believe that's a detachment of part of the soul from the body. That's why the tradition, they call sleep the second death. There's something about it. And once we come back, it's like that we are being recalibrated in the morning. And if you're recalibrated, use it. Let's just start doing some writing in order to know that what truly is our concern. And then inshallah that will help us. So summary of what we talked about, it was the ayah, قُلْ كُلٌّ يَعْمَلُ عَلَى شَاكِلَتِهِ, that everyone acts according to their character. And character is part of the soul. Islam is here to offer solution for purification of the soul. Don't confuse it with the physical world. Physical world, again, we can study, examine it, but the spiritual issues are consistent. They stayed in the past. They're still present in societies. And in order to make a change, we need to first and most important step to take is what? What was it? كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ. Understanding that we don't have infinite time. We don't have unlimited days. Others don't have unlimited days either. Life is short. Life is fragile. We do not know what's going on. So for that reason, if the change is necessary, don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for 5 years. Don't wait for 10 years. Make long-term plans. That's perfectly fine. But if there is something that has to be changed, if there is a flaw, if there is an issue that others are suffering, you're suffering, make a decision to make a change about it. Second step, take small steps, manageable steps. Imam Ali's hadith, the most beloved actions are small and consistent. And the third step, ask good question, because half of knowledge, Imam Hassan said, is a good question. To know the why and why we do what we do, it's important. Not to just copy other people, because that's also bringing me to the final point. Who are we surrounding ourselves with? When we want to change, the people that we surround ourselves with is usually are the one make us change for the better or for the worse. The Quran said one of the greatest regret of Day of Judgment is people said, I wish I had different kind of friends. Ya laytani lam attakhidh fulanan khalila. So I wish that fulan means a blank, by the way. Fulan means put any name you want as a placeholder. Lam attakhidh fulanan khalila. I wish that person was not my friend. Because that friendship, that companionship changed. So I'm not saying find a friend that is perfect. Good luck with that, by the way. But find someone that your association with them makes you better. It's not that someone you sit with them and you know that you're not perfect either, but they make you even worse than who you are. They're capable of uplifting you for the better. And alhamdulillah, having a place such as a center, a masjid, is a good place to find friends, especially those who have the same goals as you. Somebody who has the same values as you. It's much easier. Imagine if people don't believe in the same thing, you always feel awkward. Should we eat there? Should we not eat there? Our interest is the same. There's a lot of adjustment happening. But once you find somebody who has most of the values are the same, then it's much easier to go to the next step. Okay, let's see how we can use this friendship for the betterment of ourselves. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the honor of Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, grant all of us the tawfiq of being able to change ourselves for the better, to improve ourselves. And inshallah, that ultimately when it comes to the moment of leaving this dunya, we don't say that I wish I would have done something differently, that we did what we could have done. That at the end, لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. We have nothing at the end of the day except what we struggle for, what we strive for. That's what we have with us. That's what we take with us in the akhirah, in the grave. And that's what we have, inshallah, a part of our soul even after death. So it doesn't die with the body, because it's part of the spiritual purification. So it's something eternal that stays with us. Let's inshallah say salam to Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. As you know, Tuesday is anniversary of Shahadat of our fourth Imam. Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, as we know, he carried Imamat and the leadership of Muslim Ummah after Karbala for years, right? For more than 20 years. But one thing that we know about his time, that after Karbala, there was other massacres also took place, which including they burned down Kaaba and the house of God. They attacked city of Medina and they killed and raped women. These are a lot of massacres happening after. So the atrocities of Bani Umayyah did not stop there. So that's why when Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, all the men of Bani Hashim except him are killed. The only way he's able, and we have a hadith by him that after Karbala, we did not have Shias as much as the number of our fingers and of one hand. So literally we have to build from scratch now. So Imam has to educate, raise new generation of Shias, but again, at the same time, you're being surveilled, you're being watched. They're looking for an excuse. And Imam Islam did it through one supplication, dua, because people usually look at dua as being passive. Oh, that person in the corner, they're doing dua, they don't harm us, let them do what they do. But Imam Islam makes sure that the dua has content. So through dua, inshallah, if you look at Sayf al-Jadiyah, read the translation, you understand there's so much of it. From the role of the Prophet and his family in every single dua, beginning the dua with their name, finishing it with them, and also the messages within them. Second one was Imam alayhi salam was buying slaves, teaching them how to survive and freeing them. That Imam alayhi salam, he did that with more than 1,000 slaves. So that these people come and go back to society. Because again, if they're average people, it's much easier to detect. But if they're slaves, similar to the dua, so they're slaves, they cannot do anything. It's not a big deal. Let them do whatever he wants with the slaves. But that made an impact. If you have today the Shia Islam being spread around the world, one of the reasons goes back to the work of Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. And the third was generosity of Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. To make sure that people know the difference, that because everybody, remember, after Karbala, people's faith was in danger, not Shia Islam. Islam as a whole was in danger. Because everybody said, okay, where is God? The beloved of Rasulullah was killed. This is what happened to good people. Where is God? Is there really a God? And then people start losing faith that this is the leaders of Muslim Ummah, Yazid, or the Marwan, or Ubayd Abdullah ibn Zubayr. What is it? And Imam has to fight this notion, this mentality as well. So what he was doing was going and helping people, even those that they did not believe in him. That's why we have, when they were washing the body of Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, they saw the marks of the bags that he was carrying at night to deliver food for the people. And these are the people who did not support him. These are the people who did not consider him to be the Imam. But Imam ﷺ did his part. And do we know the stories about it? But when they asked Imam ﷺ what was the most difficult moment for you, an entire journey from Medina to Mecca, then to Kufa, and then Karbala on the way, Imam ﷺ repeated 3 times, Ash-Sham, Ash-Sham, Ash-Sham. The most difficult moment for me and for my family was the city of Sham. And you may say, why? Imam ﷺ himself said it, because in the Karbala there was shahada, there was martyrdom, and that's an honor for us. Our family, my father, my grandfather Ali ibn Abi Talib was shaheed, my uncle Ja'far ibn Abi Talib was shaheed. We're used to shahada. That was not that, we were no strangers to martyrdom and shahada. But when they brought us to the city of Sham, they brought us as prisoners of war. So to be asir, to be a captive, that was the first for our family. And remember, Imam is ghayratullah. Imam has that sense of protection when it comes to the family. It was the most difficult for Imam Zainal Abidin to see that strangers are looking at his sisters. That they are the one, even they dare to offer money to Yazid to buy them, to remove their hijab and ma'ajah from them. Assalamu alayka ya Ali ibn al-Husayn, ya Zayn al-Abidin, ya ibn Rasulillah, ya Hujjat Allah ala khalqih, ya Sayyidana wa Maulana. إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. Imam Bagher says that my father, when they were brought to Kufa, Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, may Allah remove his mercy from him, he ordered to put chains and shackles on my father's neck, hands and feet. And then they forced him to ride and mount camels. And my father was not able to sit on the camel because of the weight of the chains and shackles. So we have that he ordered one of the soldiers to use a rope and to tie my father's feet under the belly of the camel. And on the way, Imam Zainal Abidin alayhi salam, under the heat, if you've been in Iraq, and you should know, and imagine they're iron on your skin. And when the head of the martyrs, when the head of Abu Abdullah, dressed of the Shuhada ahead, they carried and they made them walk through the city of Kufa, and they were treated by stones. That's how they treated the daughter of Ali, the one who made Kufa for what it was. They treated Zainab with a stone. And it came to the city of Sham when Imam Zainal Abidin alayhi salam said, when we arrived at Sham, they made us wait behind the gate because they were decorating the city of Sham. And once they entered us, we saw a celebration, that people are gloating, that people are clapping, celebrating, calling us Khariji, calling us that these are the one who rebelled against the Khalifa. And they said what they said about us. And we have an old man came forward and he said, I'm grateful to Allah for that He punished you, that He protected His religion from you. And Imam Zainal Abidin told him, said, oh man, do you know who I am? He said, I know you and your family, you rebelled against the Khalifa of Muslimin. He said, do you know who my father said? I said, I don't know. So Imam said to this old man, if you don't know who I am the son of Hussein. I am the son of a man that was the son of Ali and Fatima. And as soon as this man recognized, the propaganda in Sham was so strong, they did not even know who these people are. He started crying, he started apologizing that, Ya ibn Rasulullah, forgive me. I did not know who you are. That is the one that Imam said, Ana ibn Makkah wa Mina. If you don't know, I'm the son of Mecca, I'm the son of Mina. That all those rituals that you talk about and you believe in comes from my grandfather Rasulullah. So we have at that moment, that old man, as he was crying, he said, what can I do to repay for my mistake? Imam said, I have two requests. Number one, bring me some fabrics. And he said, what do you want the fabric for? Imam said, because of these irons and these shackles around my neck, because of the heat, the scorching sun, my skin been burning and I've been bleeding. Can you bring me some fabric and some cloth to put between that chain and between my injuries? And he did it. He brought the cloth, he gave it to Imam. He said, what was your second order? And Imam alayhi salam looked at him and said, can you ask this soldier ahead who's carrying the head of my father Hussein to move a bit forward, give him some money, because every time when my sisters, every time my aunt Zainab look at the head of my father, I can see they want to cry, but the enemies, the soldiers, don't let them cry. Every time they're being punished by a whip because they are seeing the head of my father Abu Abdullah on the lands. We have that when Imam was poisoned, Imam Baqir alayhi salam wanted to wash the body. They hang a curtain, give him the Imam privacy to wash the body of Imam Zain al-Abidin. We have suddenly Imam alayhi salam stopped the ghusl. He began to cry. They asked Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, Ya ibn Rasulullah, what happened? Is there anything that we can help you with? He said, leave me alone. As I was washing the body of my father Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, I saw all the marks of the injuries from the shackles. I saw the injuries on his neck. As I was washing the back, I saw the marks of the whips. As I was washing his feet, I saw the marks of the shackles on his feet. Ya Rasulullah. And that day, this is the way Imam Baqir alayhi salam cried for his father. But years before that, Ali ibn Abi Talib also cried in the middle of the ghusl. As he was washing the body of his beloved Fatima, he was asking the children not to cry, the orphans not to cry out loud, because Fatima Zahra asked that I don't want any of those who was responsible for my shahada to join and participate in my funeral. So Imam told them, if you cry, cry quietly. But suddenly in the middle of the ghusl, Imam Ali alayhi salam began to cry out loud. When we have that Asma is the one who's assisting Imam Ali, she said, I asked him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, you told us not to cry out loud. What happened that you're crying? You're crying so loud that you abandoned the ghusl. Imam alayhi salam looked at him and said, Asma, leave me alone. This is the moment I just saw the injuries. I saw the red face of Fatima for the first time. This is the time that I saw the broken arm of Fatima. Wa ala la'natullah ala al-qawm al-zalimin wa sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalabin yanqalibun inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Ya Allah, by the honor of Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, grant all of us the ziyarat of Jannatul Baqi in Medina. By the honor of Imam Zain al-Abidin, grant all of us the shafa and intercession of Imam Zain al-Abidin and Ahlul Bayt. By the honor of Imam Zain al-Abidin, hasten return of Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. By the honor of Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam, protect all the lovers, all the Shias of Ahlul Bayt, wherever they are in the world. By the honor of Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam, grant all of us the tawfiq of learning the message of Abu Abdullah Hussein and spreading the message and the love of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in the world. By the honor of Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam and Imam Zain al-Abidin, grant all of us the tawfiq of helping one another for the cause of Imam of our time and assisting one another to revive the message of the Imam of our time. Inshallah. Let's inshallah finish with the matam. Ya Hussein. 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 Ya Hussein.